All right, let's try a high five again.
Okay.
1, 2, 3.
Great. I don't know why I'm having a hard time with this.
I don't know either, Elizabeth. I wish I knew.
That was slow. That one was you.
That was on me. Hi, everyone. Thanks for watching this video on Whatcom Community College and how to get started. My name is Carmen Green. I'm the Associate Director for Outreach.
My name is Lizbeth Gonzalez Vasquez, and I'm the Outreach Coordinator for Whatcom Community College.
And we are just making this video to provide you with some information and guidance. We know it's a really unusual and unique senior year. It's a big decision and a pretty daunting journey to try to figure out what your plans are for after high school graduation. So we want to try to make that as smooth as an experience for you as possible. So we're going to tell you a little bit about our experiences through college and education. We'll walk you through the website for some helpful pages and how to get started. And if you have follow-up questions, you can also always reach out to us directly. So Elizabeth, do you want to share a little bit about your educational journey?
Sure. So I'm a graduate of Whatcom High School. I went to Bellingham High School first, but then I ended up graduating, doing my last 3 years at Whatcom. I started my higher ed time at Whatcom, which at first was not my number one plan, but I'm super glad that it ended up being that way because I gained a lot from going to Whatcom first, and I don't know if I would have been able to experience if I would have gone to a four-year university right off the bat. I was able to learn a little bit more about my identity and myself, and also learn to juggle the college life and my life in general. So like work, school, and then also balancing out my homework time. So I was able to be a part of some student engagement type of things. I was a student staff for the Intercultural Center, which is a really cool spot. And it's where students gather and plan for events. They develop their leadership skills and also get paid for it, which is really awesome. It can be part of your funding plan as well once you get to that when you're planning for college. But yeah, then I transferred over to Western and I finished up my degree in human services.
Elizabeth and I actually have sort of similar pathways. So as I share my story, don't think these are the only two options to go. But I also went to Whatcom Community College. I went as a Running Start student. So I was homeschooled until 5th grade. And then I went to Mount Baker High School out in Deming. My older brother was told about Running Start. And so he did Running Start his junior and senior year. And I was kind of in a phase where I was copying everything my big brother did. So that I ended up enrolling in Running Start as well. So Running Start's the cool program where you can take college classes while you're a junior and or a senior in high school. So you get to work towards high school graduation and be earning college credit at the same time. And that college credit is free of tuition costs. So it's a pretty awesome program, can definitely be a good part of your like overall funding plan for your education. But that's besides the point, especially if you're seniors this year. Running Start is great, but it's also not the only way you can take advantage of going to Whatcom. I went to Whatcom for 2 years, my junior and senior year. And then right after that, I decided to go to Western also. I went to Western wanting to pursue a degree in psychology, and then I changed my mind to sociology. And then one of my good friends on my intramural soccer team told me about the human services program. So I also graduated from Western's human services program, just like Lizbeth. But what's cool is a lot of students who go to Whatcom for their first couple years of college, they go all over the place to finish their degrees at universities. So Western for sure is a big one, but students also go to the University of Washington or Washington State University, Central University, Eastern Washington University, schools in California, schools on the East Coast, really whatever like your dream university is, Whatcom can just become a part of that dream, not at odds with whatever that dream is. So just something to keep in mind. And it's really neat because Elizabeth and I work for the college now, encouraging students to come here. And I can only speak for myself, but it's an easy job to have because I genuinely know what the experience was. I enjoyed it. It really set me off in the right direction for my education. So it's easy for me to encourage you all to do the same. No matter what your family income is, the tuition is always free. So even if your family was earning a lot, you would not be paying tuition as a Running Start student. But with fees, they would apply. So like, yeah, if you're taking a lab class and there's like a $25 materials fee and then also textbooks. But that's what's so cool about the program is it's a program like through the state. So no matter what your personal status is, you still get the free tuition because the experience itself, you have to pay for textbooks, transportation if you're driving a car. Yeah, the only exception would be if it was a student who was not a junior or a senior. So sometimes there's like 10th graders whose parents like are like, this, my kid's so smart, they want to do Running Start, and they can take classes, but they don't fall into the state requirements of the program because they're not an 11th or 12th grader. So those students would have to pay to take college classes. Okay, so I have the website pulled up, so I will go ahead and share my screen. As of right now, as we're in virtual life with COVID-19, welcome to Whatcom. This is pretty much it. It's our website. So this is the home page. As you can see, it's just whatcom.edu. And to get to some of your most helpful pages, you can just come down here to these colorful boxes, and you are all future students. So you'll go ahead and click on this big orange future student square, and that will take you to the virtual welcome center. So imagine if you were to physically like walk onto campus, this is sort of the virtual version of that. Our contact info is right there, outreach@whatcom.edu. Lizbeth and I are on the other side of that inbox. And there's a whole bunch of helpful stuff here. So create your crew. This is kind of the space where you'll get connected with certain service areas that you're gonna need right from the beginning, depending on your specific needs. So for example, if you're a student with an IEP or a 504 plan in high school, you're gonna wanna connect with our Access and Disability Services team to make sure you get accommodations here at the college. If you are a student who is thinking about living on campus, you'll want to explore like residence life and housing. If you are a student who is the dependent of a veteran or you're a veteran yourself, you would want to connect with veteran services and so on. So this is a really important area to get you started off on the right foot. This area here is to kind of explore the different career pathways that we offer. Honestly, the quick answer is that no matter what you want to study, you can always pretty much begin at Whatcom. We really offer like all of the general university requirements. So all of the base level college courses you would need to work towards a degree. But if you want to kind of look in more detail, that would be the place to explore.
You can always send us an email requesting to get like a referral to one of our academic advisors if you're unsure who specifically to talk to about the specific program that you might be interested in.
And a lot of times too, that's part of your experience as a student is college is kind of designed for the first couple quarters and the first couple years to be very exploratory. And through that time, you'll get to meet with your academic advisor to kind of hone in on what it is you want to do. And like me, you might end up changing your mind like 3 times anyway, so it always changes. This box is really important too, exploring your funding options. So maybe we'll just jump into that page really quick just to take a look. This is important because for most of our students, paying for college is the biggest barrier, right? College pretty expensive, even at a school like Whatcom, where the tuition is essentially as low as you can get when you're talking about higher education. A year at Whatcom without financial aid is around $4,300. So we want to support students in getting some funding in place. So this is a page where, of course, we're going to encourage students to apply for financial aid with either the WASFA form for state aid or the FAFSA form for federal aid, depending on what you're eligible for. And this entire page just speaks to different options for funding. The Washington College Grant is really exciting because just by submitting a FAFSA or a WASFA, you're automatically considered for these grant dollars. And that's just based on your family income. For some students, their entire Whatcom tuition could be covered. And again, that's just by submitting a FAFSA or a WASFA. And then other options here, for example, if you're a student in foster care, if you've experienced homelessness at any time, our Passport to College program would be great to connect with. Running Start, of course, the WCC Foundation Scholarship is one we always encourage students to apply to. Resources for undocumented and DACA recipient students, and even things like athletics, right? That if you're an athlete, your place on a collegiate athletic team at Whatcom could cover up to 65% of your tuition costs. So these are just all the different ways to see how your funding plan could come together. And I'm going to go back to the Virtual Welcome Center. So the next piece that's really important for you all is going to be kind of your front door into your application process. So we have the Running Start application for 11th and 12th graders, international programs, and then this orange square is going to be like for those who are seeking to finish their GED or take English as a second language courses. If you are a senior graduating high school planning to come to Whatcom after graduation, you're going to go ahead and enter the general application and enrollment process.
Or if you graduated and got your high school diploma, have been out for a while, that's still the place that you go to.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth, for clarifying that. This page is going to become your best friend. So if you open up this page, I would recommend just bookmarking it. It's really going to guide you through each step between the application itself and then your first day of school.
Yeah, and it'll always be like a good place to go back and visit too. If you ever like, oh, where can I find that? This could be the perfect place to go and see if you can figure out what it is that you're looking for.
And it's just whatcom.edu/get-started. So this is the page. You'll see there's a couple different ways to get to the application itself. The big blue button up here, the underlined text here, and then instructions if you're a returning student. So if you're a student who has taken classes at Whatcom, you stopped and you want to return, that's okay. A quick note for students who have done Running Start, you still need to reapply to Whatcom if you'd like to come to Whatcom as a student after you graduate from high school. So that's really important. Another important detail about that is you want to wait to apply until you've registered for your last quarter of Running Start classes. It gets a little confusing, but because of the way the programs are coded, you want to wait until that registration has passed, and then you are welcome to apply, and we'll support you in getting started, kind of a general college student rather than as a Running Start student. And obviously that's a lot of information, so if you ever need to ask follow-up questions, you can always reach out to us.
The application typically takes about 15 minutes to complete from start to finish, but there are always like certain fields that people get a little bit confused on. So again, feel free to reach out to us with any questions if you get stumped on the sections that have to be completed.
Absolutely. And I like to open up the application because it can look a little strange, right? It's like a different color scheme as our website, but this is the correct place to be. So this is the platform that all of the Washington State Community and Technical College uses. So this is the right screen. And this is just an overview of the application. You're going to set up your account, which is really just your general info. You'll fill out the application, and then you'll go ahead and submit the application. And it is possible to apply to several institutions with the same application platform. Applying to Whatcom is free, which is really nice. It doesn't cost any money to apply. When you look at the list of schools you can submit the application to, a couple of them do have fees. So like, for example, I believe if you were to send an application to Bellevue College, it's like $50 or so. But at Whatcom, it's free, so don't worry about that piece. And then I will come down to this part of the page. So each of these headlines are a drop-down with some extra guidance. So before you even apply to the college or right after you apply is when we really want you to focus on putting together your funding plan and making sure you apply for financial aid. And we'll provide additional guidance on that, but for the sake of this video, we'll just jump on to the next piece. So let's say you apply, which is awesome. You go up here, you create your application, you fill it out, you submit it. Pretend like 5 to 7 business days have gone by, and you should receive an admission email back from the college. And in that admissions email, you'll have your student ID number, or we shorten it to your SID. And from that point forward is when you can really start digging into your next steps.
Yeah, if you ever get caught up with this specific part of the process, feel free to reach out to our IT people. They can be reached at, what was their email?
Let's see, it might be up here. Oh, I think it's on the Virtual Welcome Center, but it's the student help desk at whatcom.edu.
Yeah, and just because sometimes students miss a part of the application, or like there's just certain holds on their accounts, or they just can't get in because maybe they capitalize the letter in their login. Then if you're having a hard time getting into that, the IT folks can help you get that figured out.
Definitely. So you do want to start with setting up your student network account. This is just a list of all the things that it gives you access to. It's kind of just your general identification as a student. From that point, you'll do what we call finding your academic starting point. So Whatcom is an open enrollment institution. So that means as long as you graduated from high school or you have your GED, you are welcome to come to Whatcom and you will be admitted to Whatcom. That being said, that means we admit a lot of students with a range of transcript history, a range of educational experience. So it's important to kind of get a sense of which classes you want to register for your first quarter, specifically in English and math. This drop-down of instructions gives some guidance on doing English placement, which is essentially a short online experience that you can do independently, where you ultimately get to choose your English placement based on information we provide. And then math placement has been changing a little bit recently because of virtual services due to COVID-19. So previously we had a math placement test, but because we can't proctor those tests in person, there's a couple different ways to do math placement. The most common way for a brand new student would be to use your high school transcript. So using your high school transcript to meet with an academic advisor, and based off of your most recent class and grade, they can make a determination for you of which class you should take at Whatcom to start with. If your high school transcript doesn't place you into a class in that really straightforward way, that's okay. You'll still meet with an academic advisor and go through some different documents to get a sense of what each of our math classes looks like. And you can do some practice questions and then again, choose the math class that feels like the best fit for you.
Yeah, and this is one of the really cool things that I think evolved out of not being able to take tests in person. I really am a firm believer that we can all kind of determine what our strengths are and where we are in our learning. So I think it's really great that we have the ability to choose what courses we want to start with.
Definitely. And some students will ask like, oh, like, I don't really want to go into math related field. Like I want to be an English major or study anthropology or something like that. You still want to do math placement just because for a degree of any kind, you still need to reach a certain level of college math. The exception to that would be if you've already been, maybe in Running Start or you've taken college and high school classes. If you've already reached your college math requirements in those ways, then you may not have to take college math with us at Whatcom. But for the most part, all students should be figuring out their math placement in preparation to registering for classes. So this used to be in person on campus. Obviously, right now we're not able to gather on campus for the event, but we do have a really great online orientation that you'll just use your student network account information to log into. And I can't emphasize enough how important it is to walk through this new student orientation. It's going to give you so many helpful tips about how to choose classes, how to register for classes, making advising appointments, Whatcom student resources. So if you find yourself with a ton of questions and you haven't clicked through the new student orientation, I would empower you to click through that because there's a lot of good stuff in there. Like Elizabeth has said a couple times, we're always happy to answer your questions and make an appointment with you. But we also just encourage you to do some of that independent learning too when you feel comfortable with it.
A lot of these drop-down menus, we as a college try to organize this in a way that feels very natural and flows, but it's not always necessarily linear in the way that you're going to complete it. It can feel like you're going to be bouncing around between tabs. So this is one that I'm sure you'll be bouncing back to at some point, even after you feel like you've already been done with it.
That's a really good point. Yeah, a bunch of students, I think, revisit things like this new student orientation a couple of times. This is another good example of what Elizabeth just said, a thing you'll go back to, is that's connecting with your academic and career advisor. Your academic and career advisor is really going to be there to help you choose classes that set you up for success in the academic area you're interested in. They use a platform called Starfish to make appointments. It's really just a scheduling tool. It's a way to make a degree plan and kind of see where you are in your progress. When I was a student at Whatcom, my version of that was like a piece of notebook paper that I ripped out of my binder and like wrote notes on, but it's a lot more organized now through this program. So that'll be something that you use to connect with them. And we also have our AIM coaches. Our AIM coaches are kind of like a blend between an academic advisor and like a personal counselor, where they're there to talk to you about like your career goals and how your classes are going, but they're also there to help you like talk through some personal stuff or like financial struggles, mental health challenges, like relationship challenges, a really holistic approach to coaching students through college.
Yeah, your AIM coach will be like your advocate through higher ed at Whatcom at least.
Definitely. And the list you see on the page here are some of the different eligibility factors. So if you meet any of these identifiers, you are eligible to meet the AIM coach. And usually at the beginning of every quarter, they will reach out to you just based off of the information you provide on your application. They'll let you know that they are there and available for you if you'd like. And then this is one of the most exciting parts of the process, and that is registering for classes. So this is one of those steps. Some students will do it independently. Other students will do this during the meetings with an academic advisor. It just kind of depends on what type of learner you are and what you feel comfortable with. So there's a couple different steps. The registration calendar will let you know like when registration for certain quarters is coming up. Each student will have a unique registration access date and time. So that's the earliest that you can register for your classes. But after that date passes, you can register anytime after that. So don't be worried. It's not like a very specific window of time. And you can check what that access time is in your My WCC student portal, which is essentially the platform that gets set up with your student network account.
I always like to highlight this specific part for students because where you go to look for what classes are available is a completely different spot than where you actually input the coding to actually register for the class. That class search in red there, that's where you look up your classes that you want. So right now, it defaults to accounting, but you can click that down arrow and you can go to like, for example, English or math or anything that you can think of off the top of your head that will be one of the requirements when you first get started. And then you'll see the item number on the left-hand side is the number that you're gonna input to where you actually register for your classes. So I've had students tell me like, oh, I wanna sign up for English 101. And they're like, oh, I just put 101 in there, and I try to remind them that that's not how you input those numbers. It really matters that you put in the correct item number in that space provided, and it also shows you which classes are available. So it says open, full, waitlist, and there's a whole other process for if you're waitlisted, but that could be something that if you have questions about, you can feel free to shoot us an email.
Yeah, definitely. So that's such good advice because I think even when I first registered, I had major confusion because English like 084, like that's a number, right? But that's not the registration number. So always think 4-digit item number, which you can find here. And then the place where you actually enter that number, like Elizabeth said, is going to be through your My WCC portal. So as you're looking for your classes, just write down those 4 digits, as you're planning out what makes sense for you. And then you'll actually register through your My WCC account. So you would put your student ID number here, your PIN number, quarter you're planning to register for, and then in that login page is where you would enter that 4-digit number.
Yeah, and then now that I'm seeing you on that, it's also important to click on the correct term when you're looking for classes to register for on the class search tool, because if you don't make sure that you are looking at the correct list, you could be writing an item number for a class for a different quarter.
Definitely. I feel like one of the biggest lessons when it comes to college or planning for college is just take it slow and pay attention to details. That's such an important detail, making sure you're on the right quarter when you're looking for classes. The same thing goes for when you're applying to Whatcom. Make sure you're selecting, fall 2021 if that's when you're planning to start. Same with your financial aid application. There's going to be a financial aid application for 2021 that's still open. But if you're starting college fall 2021, you want to fill out the 2021 to 2022 academic year financial aid application. So there's all these little details. They can get a little bit overwhelming, but just take a deep breath, take each step one at a time, and just, definitely be aware of those details. And if you're not 100% sure about like a detail, which thing you're supposed to select, that's what our job is. Our job is to be here to answer those questions. Okay, and then one of the final steps, paying tuition. So tuition will typically be due about a month before your quarter starts. And this is one of the reasons we encourage students to apply for financial aid and get your funding plan in place as early as possible, because you want to be able to have a clear plan in mind once tuition is due and not feel like you have to scramble right before classes start to get it taken care of. If the tuition deadline comes around and you're still waiting to hear on like a financial aid award, that's okay. You just need to let our registration office know, and they can put a hold on your classes to make sure you don't get dropped from your classes for not having paid tuition. So that's probably a conversation for much closer to when the quarter starts. But the best advice I can give you is get those financial application, those forms in early so that we can help you.
Yeah, and I will also say that it can take up to 10 weeks or more for the whole financial aid process to be completed. Again, when in doubt, just reach out, let us know. And if we don't know the answer to your question, we will connect you to the people that will provide you with an answer.
Definitely. And then this is a step that I feel like I used to kind of take for granted in working with students, but we added it to this page because I would have students saying, okay, I paid tuition, like, am I all ready for my first day of school? And you're super close, but you still want to have your course materials and your textbooks. So you can check through the WCC campus bookstore website or through that class search tool to see which textbooks are needed for each class. And you can get them through the campus bookstore online, or, you can find whichever options are affordable to you. So you can also rent your books from our bookstore. You can look for them on Amazon or chegg.com. We don't mind where you get your books as long as it's a reliable option for you. And right now, as things are virtual, we have been checking out laptops to students as well as like other technology like Wi-Fi nuggets and things like that. And more information on that is on our virtual welcome center. So if you ever just feel like you don't have the technology you need to be successful, let us know, and there's probably ways we can get you something.
When I was a student, I couldn't afford to buy a bunch of textbooks that were like $100 or more. When we were on campus physically, I would just go to the library and ask to check out the book for like a little bit. I think there's like a certain amount of time that you can actually sit with the book. I think it's like about 2 hours, maybe more. And they just let you look at the book. And so I would just get my homework done right there and then and not have to worry about it anymore. So that's how I saved myself a couple bucks.
Definitely. And then another page I want to share, there's a couple ways to get there. So right now it pops up over here, but it's also under this main Get Started tab from the homepage, the High School Students and Counselors page. So this is kind of Lizbeth and I's page. So cute. This is a page where you can just kind of stay connected. So I would definitely encourage you to check out some of the videos from our instructors on the Whatcom YouTube channel. Our outreach Instagram is a great place to stay up to date on like deadlines, info sessions, what to do if you're on a wait list, right? So this is a great resource to stay connected on. And then this chunk here is all resources for you all, the class of 2021. I'm going to really highlight this one. It's just an online form, super quick to fill out, just kind of your general info. And this is our way of knowing you're interested in potentially coming to Whatcom next fall. So this is how we'll get a hold of you. This is how we'll invite you to virtual info sessions. This is how we'll give you guidance on all of those complicated steps we just walked you through. So I would definitely encourage you to fill this out. This is like the virtual version of when we used to visit your high schools and could get your information and you could get ours. So definitely take the time to fill that out if you can. We also are trying to highlight, really relevant like financial aid events here on this page. And then we're going to be offering ongoing financial aid support events through Whatcom as well. So we'll promote those here too.
As you're getting ready for Whatcom and you're working on things your senior year, the worksheet packet is one that will kind of help you keep track of all the information, all the people that you're in contact with, and what kind of help they're giving you. There's lots of like usernames, passwords, things like that you need to remember, and it's kind of helpful to have them all in one spot. So this is kind of like your guide that we put together so that it can help you keep organized with all that information. It's just like a planning tool basically for your convenience. And then we also created a college dictionary because we understand, especially if you come from a first gen background, that first generation student, that means that you're one of the first maybe in your family to go to college, and college terms always get thrown around and people just assume that you know what they're talking about, but this is a alphabetized list of terms that you might hear and their definitions.
Yeah, and this, I feel like even putting this together was so eye-opening for me. For example, this is such a funny case, right? Like the term instructor, faculty, and professor, they all mean the same thing, but we use 3 different words, and they really just mean that they're your teacher, right? Like that's kind of the term you would use in high school, and then for some reason we decided to come up with 3 additional words to use in college. Why we did that, I don't know, but it's kind of helpful to be able to keep track of all the things we're talking about. When you hear people talking about like majors or minors, I feel like when I was going through college and meeting with academic advisors, I was just sort of like nodding my head, but I didn't really understand like the difference between some of these things. So definitely take some time to look through there, or if you're about to meet with an academic advisor or something virtually, like pull it up and have it with you to kind of like navigate some of those conversations. And some of the things on here will change over time. For example, we were doing like Wednesday afternoon drop-in hours from 1 to 3 on Zoom. And that information is here on this page, but that might change soon to be a more like wide open drop-in space. And so as that's up to date, we'll share it with you all and with your high school counselors. I'll show you one last page just real quick. Once you are enrolled at Whatcom, hopefully fingers crossed, by the time you all come to Whatcom, we'll be on campus, on the ground, walking from building to building. So hopefully this won't be super relevant, but this is the page for our current students right now. So this is kind of like your virtual campus where you can get your instructor's office hours and access Canvas and my WCC and get in touch with our department. So as you make that transition from like an applicant through like registration and then your first day of class, this might be a helpful page for you too.
I will say that if you need any support around translating, like if you have a parent that isn't really able to navigate the website or the steps to getting started at Whatcom in English, I do speak Spanish and I'm able to provide that additional support if need be. So just reach out and let me know, and I will try to connect with you and your family about how to get started at Whatcom.
And if you are from a family where there's a different language needed, like whether it's Russian, Vietnamese, I know there's contacts in the community that we at Whatcom can work with to kind of connect and make sure we get the Whatcom information that you and your parents need translated for you and your parents. So never hesitate to reach out, even if the language at home is beyond English or Spanish and something different. Awesome. Well, it was nice to walk you all through this process. We know it is a lot of information. This is definitely a tool you can revisit as you're navigating through the process. And we are always here to talk in real life through appointments or drop-in. And we're just really excited to welcome you to Whatcom.
We hope to hear from you soon and can't wait to work with you as you navigate your time at Whatcom.
All right, we did it. We pretty much just like got started at Whatcom. Should we try an exit high five?
Okay. Ready?
1, 2, 3.
Again.
I think that by the end of